The Red Sea is a corridor, 2,000 miles of narrow enclosed water between the African continent and the Arabian Peninsula, bounded at its northern end by the Suez Canal and at its southern end by the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. The Gate of Grief, as the Arabic name translates, a name that whoever first chose it understood something about what the water does to the vessels and the people that pass through it under adverse conditions. The Red Sea's geography amplifies everything. Its width, never more than 200 miles, and frequently less than 100, means that any vessel transiting it is always within range of shore-based threats from one coast or the other. Its length means that a transit from Suez to Bab el-Mandeb or back takes days, not hours. Days during which a vessel under threat has no alternative route, no way to go around the danger, only the options of stopping or continuing through it. In the years following the Houthi movement's consolidation of control over northwestern Yemen, including the Red Sea coastline that the Houthis claimed as their operational area, the Red Sea had become one of the most consistently dangerous corridors for commercial shipping in the world. Houthi anti-ship ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and one-way attack drones had struck commercial vessels with a frequency that had driven much of the world's container shipping onto the longer Cape of Good Hope route around Africa, adding weeks and significant fuel costs to every voyage that would otherwise have transited the canal. The naval response, American, British, French, and Allied warships conducting a multinational protection operation, had established a defensive architecture in the southern Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden that had interdicted a significant fraction of the Houthi strikes, but had not eliminated the threat. The Independence-class littoral combat ship operating in the Red Sea on this Tuesday was not a destroyer. She was a smaller, faster, less heavily armed platform, designed for the kind of coastal and shallow water operations that the name suggested, equipped with a modular weapons architecture that had been configured for the surface warfare mission package that the Red Sea environment required. Her limitations relative to an Arleigh Burke were real and well understood by her crew and by Fifth Fleet. But she was present, she was capable, and she was the assigned escort for the humanitarian convoy that had been the subject of weeks of diplomatic coordination between the United Nations, World Food Program, the Yemeni Provisional Government, and the Naval Protection Command at Camp Lemonnier. The convoy was 7 vessels, 4 bulk carriers loaded with wheat, rice, and cooking oil, 2 tankers carrying diesel for the generators that powered the medical facilities in the aid corridors of northern Yemen, and 1 hospital ship flying the Red Cross flag whose passage through the Red Sea had been formally notified to every armed party in the region under the protections of the Geneva Conventions. Combined cargo, enough food to sustain approximately 800,000 people for 30 days, enough diesel to keep the hospital generators running for 6 weeks, and a hospital ship whose 412 patients included children recovering from surgical procedures that could not be interrupted. The convoy had been moving north through the Red Sea for 26 hours when the threat picture changed. It was a Tuesday. The time was 2:33 local. Pre-dawn, the Red Sea at its darkest in the moonless period between lunar phases. Visibility 0 beyond the ship's own navigation lights. The watch running in the controlled tension of a night transit in a threat environment that required sustained attention from every sensor operator on the LCS. The convoy was at 16 degrees north latitude, approximately 70 nautical miles from the Yemeni coast, on course north at 11 knots, the speed of the slowest vessel in the convoy, a pace that kept the formation together, but that offered limited ability to maneuver away from any threat that developed faster than the convoy could respond. The first alert came from the organic UAV that the LCS had airborne, a Fire Scout MQ-8C running a surveillance track ahead of the convoy at 1,500 feet, its full IR scanning the surface picture in the darkness for the fast boat signatures and surface contacts that constituted the primary threat in this operating area. At 2:33, the Fire Scout's FLIR registered multiple small heat sources on the surface, bearing 345 from the convoy's lead vessel, range 11 miles. 5 contacts, small, low to the water, moving at high speed, assessed immediately as fast attack boats consistent with Houthi naval assets. Their surface heat signatures, the compressed exhaust and hull friction signatures of fiberglass boats, running at 30 knots or above. 30 seconds later, the ESM suite registered airborne signals, not from aircraft, but from the terminal guidance systems of one-way attack drones operating in a frequency band, the intelligence database associated with the Iranian-designed Shahed 136 variant that Houthi forces had been employing since the previous year. Not one signal, 4 distinct signals, bearings distributed across the northern arc, altitudes assessed at between 200 and 500 feet from the radar's returns, 5 fast boats on the surface, 4 one-way attack drones in the air, a coordinated attack, surface and air, simultaneous approach vectors designed to divide the LCS's defensive systems between 2 threat axes at once. The commanding officer arrived on the bridge and in the CIC simultaneously through the intercom link that connected both spaces. He heard the threat summary from the surface warfare coordinator in 3 sentences, assessed it in the 2 seconds that his training had compressed the decision process to, and gave the orders that the situation required. Condition 1. Launch the MH-60S, CIWS, to auto-engage on the drone axis, surface chain guns on the boat axis, communications, flash traffic to 5th Fleet, Mayday format, coordinated attack, Red Sea, our position, Convoy and Company. Now, Condition 1. Every station manned, every system at full readiness, every weapon at its engagement configuration. The LCS was smaller than a destroyer. Her defensive systems were proportionally lighter, her redundancy less deep, but her crew was trained for exactly this environment. And the weapons she carried were the weapons that the Surface Warfare Mission Package had assessed as appropriate for the Red Sea threat. The MH-60S was airborne at 0235, lifting from the small flight deck and immediately establishing a position between the convoy and the inbound surface contacts. The helicopter crew's assignment was simple and dangerous. Find the fast boats, illuminate them, and employ whatever weapons and countermeasures were available to disrupt their attack geometry before they reached the convoy. At sea, distance is language, and the language of 5 fast boats at 11 miles closing at 30 knots was measured in time, approximately 22 minutes to the convoy's perimeter if nothing intervened. The drone threat timeline was different. 4 drones at assessed speeds of 120 knots, inbound on a northern arc bearing range estimated at approximately 18 miles, 14 minutes to the convoy's air defense envelope. The drones were the faster threat. At 2:37, the LCS's CIWS phalanx on the forward mount activated in auto-engage mode. The system's radar was building track data on the 4 inbound contacts, the 20mm gun's targeting system, computing intercept solutions, the engagement sequence loading in the automated architecture that the crew trusted and that the Navy had refined through years of operational experience and testing. At 18 miles, the phalanx was not yet in its effective engagement range. The system's reliable engagement envelope against small, low-flying targets was measured in kilometers, not tens of miles. But the tracking was established, the solutions were building, and the system would engage when geometry permitted. At 2:39, the MH-60S crew established visual contact with the lead fast boat. The flare showed a vessel approximately 12 meters long, modified civilian speedboat design, a crew of 2 visible on the thermal image, no heavy weapons visible. The boat was a platform carrier, likely carrying a shaped charge warhead in the bow or a limpet mine deployment system, its speed and its angle of approach designed to reach a convoy vessel's hull and detonate before the defensive cordon could stop it. The crew of the MH-60S had the option of engaging with the helicopter's weapons. The commanding officer made the decision at 2:40. MH-60S, warning flare first, then if they do not turn, engage with the M197. Minimum force. Document every step. The helicopter descended to 200 feet and fired a warning flare across the bow of the lead fast boat at 2:41. A white phosphorus flare that illuminated the surface around the boat and created an unmistakable visual signal that the boat had been identified and that the next action would be direct fire if it continued. The lead boat did not turn. At 2:43, the MH-60S opened fire with its M197 3-barrel 20mm rotary cannon. Short burst, controlled, aimed at the water immediately alongside the lead boat's port side. The water impact was visible on the FLIR as a line of white splash columns walking across the surface toward the hull. The lead boat turned, hard left, reducing speed, turning away from the convoy's bearing. The crew had been warned and had received the direct engagement signal and had made the decision to disengage rather than continue into the helicopter's fire. 1 boat disengaged. 4 remained. The MH-60S repositioned toward the second contact, while the commanding officer in the CIC watched both the surface picture and the air picture simultaneously. The drone timeline was inside 9 minutes. At 2:44, the phalanx acquired its first drone engagement solution. Lead contact, bearing 338, range approximately 8 miles, altitude 320 feet. The system's engagement computer confirmed the intercept geometry, and the phalanx fired. The burst lasted less than 2 seconds. The drone's radar return disappeared from the display at 2:44:31. First drone killed, 3 remaining. Their bearings were separated: north, north, northwest, and northwest. The distribution designed to force the CIWS to engage threats from different angles in a sequence that compressed the available reaction time between engagements. At 2:46, the second phalanx engagement removed the north-northwest contact. The burst was longer. The targeting solution on the second drone had required more tracking time because of its lower altitude, the drone flying at 180 feet, where ground clutter effects complicated the radar picture. 2 drones remaining. The CIWS was reloading. On the surface, the MH-60S had driven a second fast boat to disengage with a warning burst at 02:45. 2 boats disengaged, 3 remaining, all 3 now within 7 miles of the convoy's rearmost vessel, the hospital ship. The geometry tightens. 7 miles at 30 knots, 14 minutes. The hospital ship was at the rear of the formation, her Red Cross markings visible on her hull, and her superstructure, her patients, including 412 people who were there because the Geneva Conventions were supposed to mean something. The commanding officer ordered the convoy to emergency maneuvering at 2:47. The convoy vessels had been briefed on the emergency protocol. Maximum speed, tight column, following the LCS's course changes, and they executed it with the kind of compliance that merchant mariners display when they understand that the alternative is a fast boat against their hull in the dark. At 2:48, the third drone was engaged by the phalanx, range 3 miles, altitude 200 feet. The intercept solution confirmed, the burst fired, the contact removed from the display. Third drone killed, 1 drone remaining, bearing northwest, speed unchanged, course unchanged. The fourth drone was not maneuvering, was not adjusting to the loss of its companions, was on its programmed flight path with the terminal guidance seeker that would activate in the final phase of its approach. At 2:51, the fourth drone entered the phalanx's high-confidence engagement envelope, range 1.5 miles, altitude 140 feet, the targeting system confirming lock, the engagement authorized in the automated sequence. The burst removed the contact at 2:51:18. 4 drones destroyed. The surface threat remained. 3 fast boats at 4 miles, closing. The MH-60S had been engaging the surface threat throughout the drone engagement. A second warning pass on the third boat had not produced a turn, and the helicopter had fired a second controlled burst at 02:49 that had struck the boat's engine compartment. The boat had stopped, drifting, its crew visible on the FLIR as 2 figures moving to the stern. The boat was disabled. 2 fast boats remaining, 3 miles, 6 minutes at their current speed. The LCS's commanding officer made the decision at 2:52 that the remaining 2 boats represented a direct threat to the hospital ship, and authorized the LCS itself to engage with her 57mm Mark 110 gun mount. The first round was fired at 2:53. The 57mm mount's fire control system had the lead boat in track, the target at 2 miles, moving at 30 knots, and the round impacted the water 30 meters ahead of the boat's bow at 2:53:09. A warning shot. The first warning from the ship itself. The lead boat turned at 2:53:14, 5 seconds after the warning round's impact. The second boat, watching the lead boat's turn, followed at 2 hours, 53 minutes, and 27 seconds. Both remaining surface contacts disengaged, their speeds reduced, their courses turning south, their attack geometry abandoned. At 2:57, the tactical display showed a clear picture around the convoy. No airborne contacts, no surface contacts closing. The fire scout's FLIR was scanning the surface in a 5-mile radius and showing nothing that was not a convoy vessel. The MH-60S was orbiting the disabled fast boat at distance, the crew visible on deck, the vessel drifting. The commanding officer transmitted to 5th Fleet at 2:59. Attack complete. 4 one-way attack drones inbound. 4 destroyed by CIWS. 5 fast attack boats inbound. 2 disengaged on helicopter warning. 1 disabled by helicopter fire. 2 disengaged on 57mm warning round. 0 drones reached convoy. 0 fast boats reached convoy. No damage to any convoy vessel. No casualties among convoy crew or patients. Hospital ship integrity confirmed. Convoy continuing north at 11 knots. Full reconstruction package follows. He stood in the CIC for a long moment. The convoy was still moving. The food was still in the holds. The hospital ship's patients were still on their ward beds. 412 people who had no idea what had just happened outside their hull in the Red Sea darkness. Full reconstruction, he said. Threat timeline from first fire scout contact at 02:33 to all clear at 02:57. 24 minutes. 5 boats, 4 drones, coordinated. The engagement sequence, CIWS on the drone axis, helicopter on the boat axis, simultaneous. The drone engagement timeline, first kill at 02:44, 4th kill at 02:51. 7 minutes from first phalanx engagement to final drone removed. The surface engagement, helicopter warning flares, helicopter direct fire, LCS 57mm warning round. Minimum force at every stage. He looked at the intelligence officer. The coordination. 5 boats and 4 drones launched simultaneously from distributed positions. The drone guidance frequencies, ESM, captured 4 distinct emitters. The surface boat's approach geometry was designed to force the helicopter to divide between surface threats while the drones closed on the CIWS. That is not improvised. That is a planned attack architecture. The planning intelligence goes to 5th Fleet and to the counter-Houthi intelligence fusion cell today. He looked at the communications officer and to the United Nations World Food Program Convoy Coordinator. The convoy is intact. Cargo is intact. Hospital ship is intact. We will be at the delivery point at 0600 as scheduled. They need to know the patients are safe. He set his notes down. The hospital ship's captain deserves a direct transmission from me. His crew maintained their station throughout. 412 patients did not know what passed 24 minutes ago in the water around them. He keyed the ship-to-ship circuit at 0304. Hospital ship, this is the Escort. Threat has been neutralized. All convoy vessels are confirmed undamaged. Your patients are safe. We will be at the delivery point on schedule. Well done to your crew. What had been tested in the Red Sea on this Tuesday pre-dawn was the specific capability combination that the Houthi threat had required the Navy to develop. The simultaneous management of a fast boat surface attack and a one-way attack drone strike against a convoy whose most valuable asset was a hospital ship. The attack architecture, coordinated, simultaneous, distributed across two threat axes, was the result of operational learning by a force that had been studying American naval defensive responses for long enough to attempt to saturate them by dividing their attention. The LCS had been the response to that architecture, and the LCS's response had worked. Not because a small littoral combat ship was more capable than an Arleigh Burke, but because her crew had drilled the specific sequence of events that occurred on this Tuesday morning until every person at every station knew their exact role in the two simultaneous engagement chains that the attack required. The helicopter crew knew to begin with warning flares and escalate only to direct fire. The CIWS operators knew the priority sequence for the drone axis. The 57mm crew knew that the warning round was the first option and that it would be sufficient if the crew drilled the sequence correctly. It had been sufficient. The convoy continued north. At 6 o'clock, as scheduled, the convoy vessels began their approach to the delivery point. The food went ashore. The diesel fuel reached the generators. The hospital ship's 412 patients received their morning medications in the wards of a vessel that had passed undamaged through the water, where 3 hours and 27 minutes earlier, 9 threats had closed on the convoy simultaneously. They did not know. They did not need to know. The crew of the LCS knew, and they had done their jobs.